I hope you all utilize the time to complete your assignments. Did you all? How have you progressed with the assignment, please?
So we haven't completed it. Obviously, we started working on it,
Good.
but haven't completed or nothing close to completion yet.
Yeah, very good. But you have time till 1st of June, right?
Yes.
Good, good, good.
Thanks.
Very good.
Sir.
Yes, yes, Kasaba.
Yes, my question regarding the assignment, sir. What's the difference between value addition and contribution to the economy?
Value addition is in the context of treasury bills and bonds. You add value in the sense with fine-tuning the price to the buyer or the seller. But the contribution to the economy is by way of introduction new instruments or finding the best bid and best offer for the end user or for the investor. Then you contribute to the economy. You see, both concepts go parallel, hand in glove, but the more broader concept is contribution to the economy.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. So other one, you are raised your hand. Any question?
No, sir.
No. How is the assignment being addressed?
Now we start, sir.
Okay, okay. You're not started as yet?
Yes, sir.
So can you start and then complete it quickly?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So Niluki, I have a question.
Yeah, Niluk.
So just a kind of clarification, basically. Now, in terms of the essay topic or the assignment topic, where we are supposed to introduce new products or maybe new instruments or propositions. My question is, within the existing regulation as brokers, do we have that flexibility and capability, sir, or how does that work?
No, I don't think you should be now. Whatever the concept or the mechanism that you are going to suggest, if you think that it is prohibited going by the current regulations, it's a matter of joining hands together as a community and presenting the facts to the regulator, getting the approval to march forward. For example, now I think I was suggested money brokers to run their own portfolio of treasury bills and bonds. Current regulation does not provide for it. But if you can list down the benefits out of that, value addition to the economy, by creating more players, more knowledgeable players like money brokers contributing with their own portfolio to find the best bid and offer, and by your providing more liquidity. So you can suggest that you through the Money Brokers Association or Sri Lanka Forex Association, or as a community jointly together with the help of Sri Lanka Banks Association, presenting matters to the central bank and then getting the approval to do so. It's just you can propose something like that.
Okay, so basically there's no limitation, I assume, in terms of what we can suggest. I mean, it's at the end of the day a proposal which will be considered, and if it makes sense, it will go forward, right?
Yeah, that's right. But you cannot just let loose like that. You must show some understanding of the current regulations. You did
Right.
your first assignment with the regulation, right?
Yes.
So then, with the understanding of the current regulations, whatever you're going to propose, just indicate that this is the compliant area of with the current regulations, or the non-compliant area current regulations, and then your proposal can be explained to the regulators, and if at all to the minister or the Ministry of Finance or Monetary Board, and then get their favorable decision to go ahead with the proposal.
Understood, sir. Understood.
Because in the past we have done several issues like that.
Sure.
We have been able to create a separate company for handling SWIFT for the entire banking and primary network. Separate company handling, the company called Lanka Financial Services Bureau. By introducing that company, we were able to reduce the cost of SWIFT by 46%.
Understood,
Right?
sir. Thank you.
Okay, right. So, Mangala, can we start?
Hi, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Now we will go through this part again, the bond calculation, and we will try, if we have more time, we will try to do another sum on our own, like then you can calculate and see whether you are able to do the same thing as we learned. Now we did this accrued interest calculation, I think twice last time also, but then I will just go through it fast. Now this was our sum, right? This was our sum, face value 50 million and issued date, maturity, coupon, interest, settlement date, and yield to maturity is there. So, sorry?
Mangala, I don't think people can see your presentation.
No, I shared it. Just a minute, I'll share it again. Can you see now?
No, sir.
Can't see?
We can see your screen.
Just a minute.
Mangala, you have to click the present now.
Yeah, and window, no?
No, the entire screen.
Entire screen, no? Sorry. Yeah. Right, okay. I shared the window only, right? Okay. Now can see, no?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So we will, we have gone through this twice, but then we will, partly we did last time as well. But since we had, maybe 1 week holiday due to this change of working arrangements, we will go through it again. Face value, issue date, and maturity date. These are the things actually you will be getting in a bond when when you deal in the market. You will be having these details. The yield to maturity is what you decide on. That is, the dealers will say, okay, we need 8.70 yield to maturity on this, or 8 points. This is actually based on, this yield to maturity is based on the market conditions. but face value, issue date, maturity date, coupon interest, and settlement date are actually the features, or not the features, rather the attributes of this particular bond, right? So now this bond can be traded at any yield to maturity. Now in this example I have taken 8.7, but then it need not be 8.7 all the time, because in various times during this during the tenure of this bond, the yield to maturity can change. So it depends on the market interest rates, basically coming from the policy rates of central bank and the interest rate policies of the government, right? So we know it's a semi-annual. In a semi-annual coupon bond, coupon payments are done twice a year, irrespective of number of days in the period. Equal coupons will be paid. You know, it's half of the coupon payment you will be getting for 6 months period. So although we don't have exactly same number of days in 2 halves of year, we pay equal interest. That is the norm in this coupon interest payment. So it's calculated on the face value. So in this case, 50,000 into 6.85, that is the coupon payment. 50,000 into 6.85, right? And then this is that calculation, LKR 50 million into 6.85. Now we divide it by 2 because we want to know, this is a semi-annual, we want to know half of the coupon now. So full coupon, if you take for the full year, it's you don't have to divide it by 2, it's just divided by 100, right? So it's 6.85 divided by 2 and divided by 100. Because why do we divide it by 100? Because 6.85 is a percentage, right? Simple percentage calculation. So accrued interest is the interest accumulated from the last coupon to the day before the settlement date. So we need to, if we want to calculate the accrued interest, we need to calculate the number of days. Now in this case, actually the accrued interest is paid exactly to the number of days that it was in, it was with the holder, right? So if I am the seller, I have been holding this, or rather I have been holding this for some time, but then I am entitled for interest from the last coupon date. Because last coupon date, if I was the holder, then they would have paid me the coupon amount on the last coupon date. So from the last coupon date to the next coupon date is one coupon period. But if I am selling this in the middle of that coupon period, then I am entitled only for the number of days that I have been having this, or I have been holding this bond. So in this coupon period, we have 183 days. We have 183 days for the full coupon from 15/4/2010 to 15/10/2010, right? Understood, no? If you don't understand anything, I'm going a bit fast, because since we went through this earlier as well. So 15/10 to 2010 to 15/10/2010. So this is 183 days, right? So accumulated interest from last coupon date to the day before settlement date, that is the accrued interest. And calculate number of days from last coupon to the settlement date. Now this settlement date is 9th. So 9th, this bond will be sold to another person, right? Or it will exchange hands on 9th. So 15/4/2010 to 9/10/2010, you need to calculate the number of days. Why we need to calculate number of days for this period? What is the reason? Because this period interest belongs to the seller. The interest of this period belongs to the seller, right? After that, it is the buyer's interest. But only thing what happens is, now the buyer will get the coupon, because the coupon will be paid in future. Coupon will be paid in coupon will be paid on 15/10/2010, that is in October, right? So now we are in August. So October, the central bank, now if this is a government security, the central bank on behalf of the government will be paying the coupon interest to the holder. So holder is the new person, new buyer actually, the buyer, the new holder. So he will be getting the entire coupon. So but this, out of this entire coupon, partly part belongs to the seller. So we need to calculate that part, and our the transaction nature of this transaction is the buyer will pay coupon interest component of that particular period to the seller. So we need to calculate 116 days interest. That is why we are actually calculating number of days for that particular period. So 16 in April, 31 in May, 30 in June, 31 in July, and 8 in August. So 8 days, because 9th actually you can't count, because 9th or end of the day the bond will be with the new holder. The bond will be with the new holder. So up to 8. So it's 116 days altogether. If you add these 16, 31, 30, 31, and 8, it's 116 days, right? So out of 183 days, 116 days interest is the accrued interest calculation. Now this part, this is this calculation. Now we multiply 50 million by 6.85%, divide by 2, why? Because semi-annual, into 116 days, divide by 183 days. Now, although we pay equal coupons, in accrued interest calculation, you need to get the number of days for that particular period and then multiply it by the holding period of the seller, right? So holding period of the seller was 116 days in this case. 183 was the coupon period, number of days for that particular coupon period. So you get 1,085,519.12. So this is the answer actually, 1,085,519.12. But what I was explaining you, or rather what I explained to you earlier also, this now we are actually practically in this market. In the theoretical class, 1,085,519.12 is perfectly a good answer, and even here it's correct. But in our practical scenario, sometimes we adopt certain rounding off methods to get the figure which can be accepted by both parties, the buyer and the seller. So in this case, now I said this is actually this was a live actual deal which we have done with a counterparty. So they are the accrued interest calculation was this 1,085,500. So I am just explaining you why these 19 rupees and 12 cents are not here in this actual figure which we have taken as the accrued interest calculation in this deal, right? So this is basically because we adopt a certain method which is an accepted method in international markets as well, and the bond calculator and what our systems are designed to handle these odd figure 1912 19 rupees and 12 cents odd figure, and arrive at a figure which can be accepted by all the parties, because here you can't be arguing. So the seller will say, okay, it's 519. The buyer can say, oh no, 519.13 cents or something like that. So then so this kind of an argument, or rather a discussion, is unhealthy for the market development, because then one transaction will take long time to conclude, because people are trying to arrive at figures rather than relying on a model or a method which is which will give you exactly a figure which can be accepted by any party to the transaction, right? So so we move on to get that answer. This is actually, this part actually I have figured out for the purpose of for, for the purpose of money brokers, this course only, because I wanted to um emphasize the uh, emphasize the practical applicability of uh, this formula, right? So there cannot be two different answers, uh, uh, practically and theoretically. So the practically what we do is we just do this part first. We just do this part first without taking into the consideration the face value. Face value, because we calculate the interest on the face value, so we, without taking face value, we just get an answer for this part of the calculation. So it is 0.021710. If you do this calculation, you will be getting this, right? Please ignore this percentage mark here because I have put 100 here as well. So 6.85 into 116 divided by 2 into 100 and 183, right? So what happens is you get this answer, and you take up to 6 decimals. So 6 decimals is 0.21710, and now you can multiply this by 50 million, then you get 1,085,500. So interest accrued calculation is this. So this figure is the practically what you have to arrive at in a case of a bond deal between two parties, right? So accrued interest is that. Now we will go move to this clean price and dirty price and accrued interest, the relationship between those three areas. Buyer will pay accrued interest of the holding period to the seller. Clean price of the bond plus accrued interest equals dirty price, because the price of the bond is the actual price of the bond, but now here we bring accrued interest here because that also a cost, or rather that also should be the holder for that period, or currently we call him seller on the settlement date. So he should be compensated for the for the sacrifice that he is he has taken by buying this bond or tying up his money with this bond. So foregoing using his money should make make an income for him. So that is the accrued interest for that particular period, because earlier he has got whatever the coupons uh, belong to him, he has already got those. So this the additional amount, that is not that additional, rather from the last coupon to the settlement date, that amount should be added on to the clean price of the bond, and we call it dirty price of the bond, and it is the total purchase consideration, or you can say sales consideration, or total consideration for this particular transaction or this particular deal, right? So clean price plus accrued interest equals dirty price. So you can say dirty price minus accrued interest is clean price. Either way, you can use this express this formula, right? So now we have come to this bond pricing topic. Now bond price is the amount of money investors are willing to pay for acquiring the bond. That is the price which you are pay. Now anything will have a price, no? So we should know what is the price of this bond, because this bond has different attributes attached to it. It has a face value, and it has a coupon interest, right? It has a tenor, like that. So different attributes are there. But then to trade this bond, you need to have a price for this bond, right? How do we decide on the price? Now, how can we make a price or decide a price for this? So that depends on what? That depends on the market interest rate, right? So that depends on the market interest rate. Now, market interest rates are actually it's a different topic, but I will just touch few points. Now, this is desire to hold money, right? So people would like to have liquidity by paying some fee for it. So that is something like that. Or you can, if you want some money, what is the price of money, right? So the price of money, we express that in terms of an interest rate, right? So that interest rate is the interest rate at which you can lend money or you can borrow money, right? So both, either way, it can be you can express the meaning of that. But only thing, when markets develop, right, now you don't get borrowing and lending rates the same. Why? People add margins to it, right? So because of that, you find different rates in the market. So but now what is the price of money, that is what is the interest rate in the market. So that interest rate you should get by investing money, right? Okay, we say like, okay, the market rate is 10%. So if you make an investment, you should get at least 10%. Otherwise, there's no point in making that investment, because you have other opportunities in the market to get 10% out of the investments. So the bond also should give you 10%, right? So now the bond should give you some percentage, that is 10%, but its face value is there's a face value for it, and it is giving you some percentage of coupon interest. So how can we make a trade, right, by using all these data available with us? How can we enter into a trade? So for that, you need to calculate the price of the bond. So price will be basically based on the bond attributes as well as the market interest rate, right? Market interest rate. So they are traded for yield. Why? Because they are people know that I need this much of return, I need this percentage of return from an investment. So they are traded for yield. That is why I say they are traded for yield. You don't trade them, you trade them at a price, but not for the price, right? You trade them for the yield it gives to the holder at the calculated price. So based on the yield you want, we calculate the price. So that is why it is necessary for us to know a bond price, right? Because not like certain other instruments which can be traded at its face value, right? Bond is not like that. Bond is a different kind of I mean, like if I say fixed deposit, it doesn't have a price. No, its price is its invested amount, right? So we go to the next slide. So we discussed earlier, we use NPV, net present value, for pricing bonds, right? So what do we do here? Now I think you must be you must be a bit conversant with this, because we discussed this earlier as well. So we calculate the present value of future cash flows of all future cash flows of this bond, right? So there are two ways that you get cash flows in a bond. That is, you get coupon payments periodically. Now in this case 6 months, semi-annually you get coupon payments, and you get the maturity value of the bond at the maturity date, or on the maturity date. So what is this maturity amount? The maturity amount is the face value of the bond, right? The maturity amount is the face value of the bond. So you get the face value plus all the coupons. So at maturity you get your last coupon as well. So these are the cash flows of a bond. So first we need to know what are the cash flows of a bond, or of the instrument, to calculate the to calculate the present value of those future cash flows, right? So the future value of all these present value of all these future cash flows are the price of that particular instrument. So we need to know what are the future cash flows, and we have a method of calculating the present value of those future cash flows, right? So we will move on. So I hope that you understand this basis of this calculation. So the basis of this calculation, now what I want to actually emphasize here is not how to calculate, but for you to understand the basis of bond pricing, right? What is the basis of the price calculation? What is the basis of the price calculation? So basis of the price calculation is that you get the present value, today value of future cash flows, right? Now I actually explain you that day. Now this, if you have a 100 rupee note today with you, right? Now that is 100 rupees today, no? That is exactly its present value is 100 today. But say suppose if you get 100 next week, right? If you get 100 next week, what is its value today? Is it 100 or more than 100 or less than 100? But in financial terms, right, it is less than 100, because you, now if you had it today, right, then you have the opportunity of investing it and earn interest on that, earn an income on that, or you can invest it and you can consume it. But then if you are getting it next week, you might not be able to buy the same amount of goods from that that money. Why? Because of the inflation. So so many ways you can explain that present value of money, or rather we say you are liquid, or your liquidity level, or you have a liquid asset with you, right? So this money you are having today can be used for various purposes you think fit, right? But now this bond will give you future cash flows, right? So we need to know like this value of 100 rupees tomorrow, value of 100 rupees you get tomorrow, like the present value of it, you need to get the present value of all the future cash flows of these bond generates, right? So the bond will generate coupons as well as its face value at the end of the period, and the coupons periodically. So these are the future cash flows that you will be taking into consideration. And when you know the present value of all these cash flows, you know the price of the bond. That is it. So that is the basic, the basis or the principle covering or based on this bond price calculation. So keep that in mind. And if you have a question, you can raise your hand and ask. But I will move on now. So now I'm just explaining here the attributes of bond. How does this this formula come into the picture, or rather how do you match the formula attributes with the bond attributes? So present value, now you know the present value, or you can say net present value. Net present value is the total of or present value of all the cash flows, right? Net present value is the present value of total of present value of all future cash flows. So net NPV or PV. Then you can say FP, the future coupons plus maturity value. So FP is the future value. So you get future coupons and the maturity value. Now maturity value is the face value of the bond, right? Now R is the yield at which the trade is agreed. So you have to decide the traders, the traders who the seller and the buyer, right? They are the traders in this trade. So the seller and buyer will decide at what yield this bond will be traded. At what yield that this bond will be traded. So that is R. So this is not an attribute of the bond, but it is an external factor which is based on a lot of things, right? This is based on a lot of things, basically demand and supply for money, right? Demand and supply for money. So demand and supply for money is uh, a result of so many various activities and factors in the market, right? And a lot of things are there. The demand and supply will get affected by uh, different kinds of reasons. There can be a lot of reasons for this. Apart from that, those reasons can be qualitative or quantitative. That is, qualitative reasons are sometimes you have some instinct of the market, uh, right? So you think that the market rates will come down, or can be maybe based on certain research, but those are qualitative things. But quantitative things are the factors which can be measured by numbers, right? Quantitative things are the things which can be measured by numbers. So R depends on yield. uh, R is the yield. So it depends on so many factors which are actually the external things and not an attribute of the bond. So we know R. Now what is N? N is the number of open periods ahead. So we know, like we have, say, if we have 3 years to mature, then you get, say, today is exactly a coupon date, then you get how many? If you have 6 years, you get 12 coupon payments. So 12 ends, like, or 12 periods. So we say how many number of coupon periods that it has to come from future to the present. So our calculation will use this number because it is very important in calculating this present value, because it will give you now apart from this formula, I'm just trying to explain you in a very simple way how many number of periods that this money has to come from future to present, right? If n is 1, then it is one time, right? So next 6 months, now here we take 6 months period as one period, right? So So now we have this calculation: face value 50 million, issue date, maturity date, coupon, interest rate, settlement date, yield to maturity. So future coupons are the coupons from 9/8/2010 to 15/4/2012. The dates are 15/10/2010, 15/4/2011, 15/10/2011, and 15/4/2012. So these are the dates on which you will be getting cash flows, right? So these are the dates on which you will be getting cash flows. So these are called coupon dates, and actually the last date is coupon date as well as the maturity date. 15/4/2012 is the maturity date, as well as another coupon will come on this day, right? All the other three, 2/10 to 2/11, 15/10 to 10, 15/4 to 11, 15/10 to 11 are 3 days on which you will be getting a coupon, right? Understood? If you don't, just ask, right? In this calculation, n is the period between number of coupons. Now we have already done calculate. Now we need to know now we know that now from 15/4/2010, there's no issue because we have all 6 months periods, right? So 1, 2, 3 are there, right? So, but only thing 9/8/2010, 15, 9/8/2010 to 15/10/2010. That period from the settlement to the next period, what is n? So we have to calculate and arrive at the n for this broken period, right? N for this broken period. Now look at this diagram. Now this has four payments. This coupon in future has 4 payments. One on 15/10/2010, the other one on 15/4/2011, other one is on 15/10/2011, and the last one on 15/4/2012. So all these will come through n periods, like, okay, this will come through one n, another n, another n, and this is partly n, no, a portion of n. So we need to calculate what is the value of this period, 9/10/2010 to 15/10/2010, right? So calculating n. So we know first step of this calculation is calculate the number of days from settlement date to the next coupon date, because now it has to come from for that number of days, right? So the entire period is, right, entire period of that coupon is 183 days. So if you take the entire this period for that coupon, like 15/10 to it starts from 15/4, no? So entire period for this between these two coupons are is 183 days. 183 days, right? 183 days. So in this period, n equals 1 equals to 183 days. But actually, we have already passed, or 116 days have already been utilized, or already we can't take because that is past, right? That is past 116 days. So we have 67 days. So this first coupon will travel 67 days from future. We have to bring it from future 67 days to the present, and we need to calculate what is the present value. So in that calculation, we need to know n. So what is n? So 183 days is if n equals when n equals 1, there are 183 days. Why? We are taking that particular coupon period, right? We are not bothered about the future future coupon periods. Like we are not bothered about the number of days in future coupon periods or number of days in previous past coupon days, coupon payments, right? So we are bothered now only with this current period. So how many number of days are there in this current coupon period? So that is 183 days. We calculated this earlier. So now actually from 183 days, already 16 days have gone, right? Already 116 days have gone. Only 67 days are there. So these 67 days only will be used for this calculation, because the coupon you will be receiving this coupon in 67 days, right? So n is not 1 there because it's less than 1, because if n is 1, there should be 183 days, but now we have only 67 days, so we are trying to calculate the n. It is if 1 is 183 days, then 67, right? If it's like this, if 1 equals 183 days, sorry, if 183 days equal, if 183 days equal 67 days, sorry, if 183 days equals to 1 n, right, then 67 days equals to how many n periods, right? So this calculation is I will so here it's, so I write it again here. If 183 equals 1, then 67 equals 2, right? Then 1 divided by 183, right? So we just put a bracket here, otherwise it's equal to, and multiply by 67, right? I think you will understand it much better. Right. So if 183 is if 183 equals 1, then 67 equals 1 divided by 183 into 67, right? So so that is this calculation. So you get 3.3661, right? We leave out all these other decimals. We take it for the 4 decimal places. So 4 decimal places for our calculation. Why why I am particular about this decimal places, because it's the calculation per se. Any decimal place if you take, it's correct, but in the bond market there are certain norms where you as a broker and other traders all should get the same price. There cannot be differences in 3 people calculating the same. So because of that, there are certain things that we have adopted, and the systems are also have designed to handle them, and also the bond calculator is also programmed for that. So here also, when we do a manual calculation also, we try to arrive at the same figure. So we take 4 decimal places, right? So now we have cash flows, 4 cash flows, no? So 4 cash flows on these days, right? So these days, so first cash flow, the second cash flow, the third cash flow, and the fourth cash flow, right? So 4 cash flows are like that. The first one is 1.712,500. N is 0.3661. So you are coming from future 0.3661, right? times. So cash flow 1.2, cash flow 2 1.712 n equals 1.3661. Why? One period plus this, no? Always. Now, when you have 0.3661 here, it's one period plus this. 1, 2 periods plus this. 1, 2, 3 plus this, right? So likewise, we get third cash flow n equals 2.3661. Cash flow 4 51,712,500 n equals 3.3661. So these are the cash flows, and we have calculated, we now know all the values of this formula, right? So we just calculate one by one cash flow at a time, and try to arrive at its present value, right? First three cash flows are the coupon payments, the last one is the coupon plus the maturity value. This we discussed, right? So the calculate present value of cash flow 1, right? Now you know 1.712,500. 1 plus 870 is the yield to maturity, right? What we wanted, and then divided by 100, divided by 2. Why do we divide this by 2? We divide this by 2 because this is half yearly, semi-annually. Now this is also, this 1.712,500 is also a semi-annual figure, no? A semi-annual coupon figure. So the entire coupon is 2 times of this, double the amount, right? But now we are taking 6 months because these coupon payments are 6 months coupon payments. So because of that, the yield to maturity, now when you quote a rate, usually you quote a rate for annum, right? So those are annual rates, right? I think I explained this earlier as well. Now when a bank publishes a rate sheet, you get 6 months, 12 months, 3 months, like that rates. So they say 3 months rate 4.5, right? 6 months rate 4.75, 12 months rate 5%. Likewise, they give rates. So what is 6 months rate? This is an annual rate, right? So if you keep it for 6 months, you get only half. This is an annual rate. So that is how the market quote rates. Now here also 8.7 yield to maturity means this is an annual, right? Annual rate that we are talking about. So we divide it by 2 and into the n, into the power n, into the power, right? Into the power. This mark is into the power. So 1.71 to 1,712,500 divide by 1.0435 into the power n is here 1.3661, right? 1.3661. So it's like this. We can, if you want, I can further do something here. So we can say so what I wanted to show is this part of this part. This part. Sorry, someone is calling. We'll leave it like that, right? So this part, this 1 plus 8.7 divided by 100 divided by 2, right? We are calculating the first one, right? Sorry. So this first cash flow one, and into the power n. So when you calculate this part, when you do this part, you will get 1.0435. Now into the power 0.3661. Why? 0.3661 is the period that it has to come from future. So you do another step. 1,712,500 divided by 1.00157, this, right? So you get this 1,686,011.35, right? So now here I have given you future value 1.712,500, R is 8.7, N is 0.3661, right? So so what is this? What is this amount you are getting here? 1,686,011.35. What is this you are getting here? You are getting here the future, you are getting here the present value of this future cash flow, right? This future cash flow of 1,712,500. When will you get this? You will be getting this on 15/10/2010. This is the first one. No, this is the first one, right? This is the first cash flow, and you will be getting it on 15/10/2010. So it has to come 0.3661 period from future. Why 0.3661? It's not a full period. It's not from coupon to coupon. It's halfway through that this deal has taken place. Halfway through the coupon, this deal has taken place. So we need to know the future distance from present to future or future to present, right? The distance. So distance is 0.3661 period, right? So that is the n, right? So I'm trying to explain you in different ways for you to understand this 0.3661. So n, so this into the power n. So you get this one. This answer 1,686 not 1135. So this is the first cash flows present value, right? And then you go to the second one, second cash flow. So second cash flow, everything is the same. Only thing is it has to come from 1.3661 times from future, right? Why 1.3661? The second cash flow, right? The second cash flow is coming from 15/4/2011. It is coming from 15/4/2011, and just give me a minute. Hello. Right, 15/4/2011. So from 15/4/2011 to 9/8/2010. So here n, it has to travel here, n equals 1. So it has to travel here, and from here it has to travel here. So it is traveling from here straight to this date 9/8/2010. So that is n equals here n equals 1. So 1 period plus this remaining period 0.3661, right? So it will travel 1.3661 periods, right? So now you get an answer 1,615,727.21. So you will realize now, you see now this figure 1,615,727 is lesser than the earlier one, right? Earlier one is 1.686. So when it's traveling from far, in the sense that when it is away, when it is far away from the day, the present, its value is, its present value is what? Comparatively, more closer one has a higher value than the one which is coming from far, right? The closer one has a higher value than the one it is away from the away from the from that. So now 1.6157271, and here you get 686. Here you get 615. So you go to the third one, third cash flow. So it has to come from 2n times plus 3661. 2n times plus 3661, right? So we will go back and see why it is so. Now it's coming from here, 15/10/2011, 15/10/2011 to 9/8/2010. So it is coming 1n, 2n's, and 0.3661. 1n, 2n, and 0.3661. So 2.3661, right? So that's the third one, third cash flow is coming from 2.36 times from future, right? So it's, so we do the same calculation here and we arrive at 1.54837299. So we move on to the fourth calculation. These figures are not changing. Why? Because they are the same. They are the same because the yield to maturity is the same and the future value is the same. But here, actually, there's a slight mistake here. Both cash flow, actually, it is 51,712,500. Please correct it in your slides if you have printed. So it should be 51 million, right? The last one is correct, but in the calculation, the first two lines are wrong. So 51 million, right? Please correct it. But the answer is correct. Answer and the last line is correct. So the present value calculation of the last cash flow, why it is 51 million, right? Why it is 51 million? I will further elaborate that like this. 50 million plus 712, right? 50 million plus so this is how it should be, right? Why this 50 million? 50 million is the face value which is maturing at the end of the period or at maturity of the bond. 50 million is the face value which you will be getting at the end of the period, and 1712500 is the coupon interest, the last coupon interest. So this cash flow, the entire cash flow, 51,712,500, 51,712,500 will come at the end, right? So it is coming from 3.3661 periods ahead of you, or 3.3661 periods from future. So we go back and see how it happens. 15/4/2012 is the last cash flow. 15/4/2012 is the last cash flow. It is away from the settlement dates 3.3661 because 0.3661 is this period and up to that period you get 3 here, n equals 1, n1, n1, 3 periods plus 0.3661. So it's 3.3661 periods away from you, away from the settlement date, away from the settlement date. So it has to come from here to present, right? So then, but only difference than these three cash flows, this has its what? This has its maturity value as well. On 15 for 2012 is the maturity date of this bond. It's the maturity date of this bond. So it has that maturity value as well, right? So we get this calculation done, and then you get this amount 44,807,228.97. And we have all these four present values of future cash flows, right? Now this calculation you can do it at once as well, but then it is a bit complex, and I don't want to put it here because then we can't go through the explanations of each and every cash flow. So now here we went through the explanations of each and every cash flow, and just give me a minute. And now we have all the present values of all the cash flows, right? So when we add all these things, you get the net present value of the net present value of the cash flow, right? All the cash flows, in the sense the total of the present value, net present value of the bond. So this is the net present value of the bond. So now this is the net present value of the bond, means this is the dirty price of the bond. Now we have got, why? Because we have taken into consideration the accrued interest portion as well. Why? Because we have taken the full coupon here. Now this is, listen carefully, right? Why I say this is the dirty price, right? This is the, now when you get all these now these are, what are these? These are the present values of the future cash flows of the bond. No, present values of future cash flows of the bond, right? And when you add all these things, you get the net present value of the bond. Now here you have 49,657,340.52. So this is the net present value of the bond. So this is the price of the bond. But now what I say is, listen carefully, this is the dirty price of the bond. Now I have got the dirty price of the bond. Why I have got dirty price of the bond? Because I have taken the entire coupon here in my first cash flow, right? 712,500. So in this, right, in this calculation, right, in this amount, the accrued interest we need to pay to the seller or the current holder is also there, right? Right? Now we can't take the entire thing. Because this entire thing is not belongs to us, no. So if this value is inclusive of the accrued interest, then that means that is the dirty price, no? That is the dirty price. So you get the dirty price here. Actually, in this calculation, you get the dirty price here. So what I want to know is, now this is the total consideration. This is the total consideration. But what I want to know is, I want to get the price of the bond. Now we actually usually we quote the price for 100 units. No, we usually quote for 100. So 100 100 equals 99 dirty price. So if the bonds 100 units are taken, it's 99. So the bond dirty price is 99.3146, right? Any do you need any more or more clarification on this? If this is up to now, how is your understanding? Have you got what I said, or are there any confusion here?
Regarding that dirty price, can you explain that again?
Yes, good that you asked that, because I think it is a big gray area for a lot of people. Tell you frankly, some people think that this calculation is get the clean price, but why I want to explain is, now this, why I say this 49, 657, 340, 52 is the dirty price, because we have included, we have taken the full coupon here in our first cash flow. We have taken, because otherwise this otherwise this calculation is not really accurate, because the coupon is on the equal basis, no, and we calculate the accrued interest on number of days. So it will be bit difficult to arrive at the same answer. So it is same answer like this, because it will give you a slight, a different answer. So to avoid that, I have taken, otherwise I could have taken the portion of this, right, from, now say, now we have to get this clarified very well. Now in fact, now if I want to calculate the clean price, right, we say we want to calculate the clean price. So what I have to do is, I have to get the interest portion from 9/8/2010 to 15/10/2010, no, that is, okay, we will go back to this calculation here. Now this is our, so if you have a calculator, you just calculate it and see. This is our 1,085,500 is our accrued interest, right? So now if I am the buyer, right, I am entitled only for 1,712,000. Full coupon is how much? 1,712,500, right? So actually 627,000 out of this coupon, right? Out of this coupon, my entitlement is 627,000. That is this period, this entitlement, no? This entitlement. So now if we put here, if we put 627,000 here, if we put 627,000 here, then you get the clean price. Why? That is the exact amount that you should get, right? That is the exact amount that you should get as the buyer. If you are the buyer, you should be getting this. But only issue is, you are getting the entire coupon, right? So you are getting the entire coupon. Say, suppose if we do the calculation by putting 627 here in our first cash flow, right, then that is the exact amount that you should pay to the seller, no? That is exact amount you should pay to the seller. Say, suppose at the time of the settlement, right, say now here at the time of settlement, right, say on this day, the issuer, central bank, right, says, okay, now the settlement is going to happen. So now up to this point, the interest is seller's interest. So we are paying seller the amount. 1,085,500. So if that happens here on the settlement date, right, then what happens? The buyer will be getting the rest of the interest only. The rest of the interest is 1,712,500 minus, right? Shall I show you here? You just put some slide here, right? So if the central bank, if CBSL, sorry, if CBSL pays accrued interest, accrued interest up to the settlement date, right? Sorry, that is up to 8/8/2010, right? Then they will be paying how much? They will be paying 1,085,500, right? Then we don't have to worry. What is the remaining of the coupon? Remaining of the coupon is 627,000, right? 627,000. Okay. Do you understand this? If this happens, right? If this happens, just give me a moment. ඇයි චින්තක අදිසියක්ද? නෑ මං මේ ඔෆිස් එකේ ඉන්නේ ඇයි? නෑ මං පොඩි වැඩක ඉන්නේ මචං මේ අදිසියක්ද? හරි මං කරලා දෙන්න විනාඩි 15ක් දෙන්න. right. So remaining of the coupon is 627, right? So if we take 627 here, right? If we take 627 here, then you will be getting the clean price. But only thing, we have taken this 1,085,500 also into our calculation, right? So we have taken the seller's part as well because this doesn't happen. Because we need to pay this to the if we are the buyer, we need to pay this to the seller. So if this happens, we take 627 and that is the clean price. No, then there's no accrued interest, but we take accrued interest as well. Now rather than taking this and adding this part, we take the entire accrued interest for the calculation, entire coupon interest for the calculation and get the dirty price and then deduct this accrued interest to get the clean price. We will move on to that slide, and then still if you are not very conversant, I'll explain again. So now I get 993146. Now I want to fine tune this price. That is why I divide it by 50 million and then multiply it by 100, and you will see the next slide. I am again multiplying it by 50 million and divide it by 100. Same thing I do again. Why I do again? To drop these residual amounts, like this is, you get this and you calculate the price for 4 decimals. This is again market norm. We give the price for 4 decimals, right? We take the price for 4 decimals. This is a manual calculation. No, so we did all this manual calculation, and now we take it for 4 decimals and recalculate the dirty price. We first get the dirty price for 100 units, and then you get we multiply here again by 50 million, divide by 100. Now, up to now, for the sake of the calculation, this is 100% correct, right? But if we are trying to adapt this in the market, say if you want to do it in an actual calculation and see, you need to do this part as well. You get the dirty price for 4 decimal places, and then you multiply it by 50 million, again the face value, and divide it by 100. Then you get purchase consideration of 49,657,300, whereas the earlier one of 340,52. So we drop 40,52, right? To do that only we do this part. But this is a market norm. Everyone will do this if they do manual calculation, and if it is in the bond calculator or in the system, they have embedded all these all these things into the calculation to get this. You can, if you have the bond calculator, you can calculate this and see whether you get this answer. You should get this answer. This is the actual purchase consideration, right? So out from this purchase consideration, we minus this accrued interest, because now this purchase consideration is what we have got is dirty price, right? Here what we have done was, we did a small cleansing to get the, these two slides, right? This and this, to get the, the practical approach to see how practically you get this 49,657,400, 300, and then we minus the accrued interest from this, and you get this 48,571,800. Now you try to get the clean price. Clean price is now this is the clean price actually. 48,571,800 is the clean price, but clean price per 100 units, we are trying to calculate clean price per 100 units, 97.1436, right? So this is how this calculation is done. You can go through this, right? You go through this, the entire thing, and we will see how you understand. Tomorrow I will do a calculation, right? I will do a calculation. I'll give you a sum, and you can do the calculation with me, right? Bring the calculators, not the bond calculator. Only what I need is a calculator with this part, this into the power function, this function into the power function, right? So that we need to do tomorrow, and then you will understand more, right? We will do 2-3 sums like this. We can now, since we have this understanding, if you do only, you will be mastering this. So but only thing, go through this and come, right? We will do a different new calculation based on this present value formula. We will call it a day. Just excuse me, because for 5 minutes, because it was a bit difficult to manage time during this, since although the Lanka circle is over, we haven't closed it, but no issue. We will do this, start at the same time, and try to cover up these things, since we have missed last week as well. Anything you want to ask me? Just go through it. If you haven't, understood the last few things, because it's bit, because I am trying to match the theoretical framework with the practical, and as well as I am trying to explain, because this manual calculation is one which we very rarely do practically. We don't go into this manual calculation, but it's not the calculation part that is very important, but the basis of the calculation, the principle behind this is the most important thing that you have to understand, right? So hopefully by end of these sessions you will be able to do much better than now. So don't worry if you have missed few things. Tomorrow you will catch them, right?
Okay, thank you, Mangala. I think you have something to attend also. So tomorrow same time, Mangala?
Yeah, so tomorrow the same time, right? I will, because I will work few more hours to cover up
Yeah.
in the evening the office work. No issues, Ratnagiri. We will do like that. Otherwise, it's no use for the others to wait. No, in the office they can go home. Right?
Thank you.
The participants. Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, Mangala, for your generosity and then positive thinking. Thank you very much. We'll meet tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Ratnagar. Yeah,
Okay.
I am really. This is a pleasure actually to work with you and also with the brokers. So that's why I am, without any hesitation, I, adjusted the time.
Very good.
Right.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
So,
Thank you,
is
sir.
there any interview question from you all, or shall we meet tomorrow at 2:30?
No questions from me, sir.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Nilu. Okay. Then we'll meet tomorrow at 2:30.
Right. Okay.
As requested by Mr. Mangal Karunatha, please bring a calculator which can be used to calculate that to the power. All right. Okay.